Hi.
Hey, we're
Hi, we're
live.
live.
That's so exciting. It feels like yesterday and forever that we were last doing this, but we never had both of us on the screen. One of us was always a gorgeous looking avatar.
Yeah, it was. And actually, today I was having a little look back through some of the pictures, as I was looking back like a year ago in my phone, and I just loved that, looking back at what was. And I definitely noticed a change as we went into lockdown, of the different pictures that I was taking. So yeah, that was really cool. Looking back at the photos of what a year ago was.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd just go live, didn't we? Just to talk about Joy FE and celebrate like a year ago, Lou.
I know. And we don't have a plan tonight, but then we never
No.
have a plan. A year has passed and
Yeah.
well, so how did it start? Let's just remind anybody who's listening how it all came about.
Yeah, let's go to that place. So you know what's weird is that I remember certain bits of time, and I'll even go like the week before lockdown. I was at JISC. I was at DigiFest, and I remember being in one of the big rooms in DigiFest, and everyone saying it's going to be next week, it's going to be next Friday that all the schools, colleges close. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like really? Like, okay. And obviously people have been talking about it for a while, but I was like, oh no, now it's real. And then I remember that Sunday, it was either the Saturday or the Sunday, wasn't it, that we were on the phone talking, and we'd come out of college. I'd collected everything from my office, and my team had collected everything from the offices, and we were just at home, and like we didn't know what we were going to do. But then we spoke, and there was that conversation, and I just felt like we couldn't stand by and do nothing. Like, but then just decided, right, well, let's take to Twitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just said let's do that. What do you remember? Hi, Jen, by the way.
Hey, Jen. Thank you for your gorgeous Wonder Woman gift today. It's fantastic and it's totally yours. If you've not seen it, get over to Twitter and have a look at it. Yeah, so I remember you calling me, and I can't remember the rest of the conversation. It's funny that I remember it being on the phone, actually. You know, now we would just say, "You're hopping on Zoom," but you called me and said we've got to do something. And you know, we talked about joy a lot, hadn't we? Because I'd done that TED talk, and that was like a lot of the conversation between us. So you know, that's how Joy FE came about. And I think one of the really lovely things is I can't remember who coined that. And that's what's really cool, because actually all the different developments have come out of conversations and, you know, have arisen from a collective of people just who love FE coming together around the concept of joy. How great that is.
I remember that. I remember that bit actually where I just said, I want to spread positivity. I want to, like, part of what I'm about is spreading positive messages. And I knew we were about to go into a space where there would be like lots of negative, what we say, like, call noise, just lots of noise, lots of worry. And I remember us talking about, well, how can we just put something out there? And like a broadcast, and we were discussing about Twitter, and you were like, can we call it Joy FE? I was like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Because that ultimately was, we just wanted to, like, we combined those like superpowers, didn't we, of we both, you know, are here to spread that sort of positivity and joy, and think about how we talk about like shining a light, don't we, but how we shine a light on what goes on. And I think that's just been super, that magic I think came from, like, I always talk about, you like, there is magic when you tap into what you're supposed to do, what you're here to do. And we both had that together, of that we had a vision together that we hadn't even spoken about, and it was just amazing. And we literally took to Twitter, we just figured it out, didn't we?
we just figured it out. So on the Monday morning at 7 a.m., there we were on Twitter, just, you know, knocking ideas around. And you were still working in a college, and you were leading the drive, the going online. So you got like loads of stuff from that college experience. And I was hearing from people across social media, and the Connect project was just coming to the end of its second year. So you know, I was hearing from lots of people. But right from the start, these amazing people who are contributing to
like, hi everyone, hi,
joined around us in a really active way. So it was never just that we had listeners. We always were a community of people who were chipping in with their ideas. And yeah, absolutely. But Jen, you were doing a fabulous podcast as well, just really short reflections on your teaching that then drove us, and we were able to bounce off people doing that sort of stuff and that they were sharing on social. And it just felt so exciting. I can't remember what I did with the rest of the day. I know as part of Net, we were building up to our national conferences. We are, of course, this week on Friday. You obviously were like going to work. I can't remember what else was happening, but I know that very shortly afterwards, 2-3 weeks afterwards, it was Easter, and we just wanted to carry on, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And it was, we took to Twitter and talked every morning, but I don't know if people know that we did it for us. Originally, we did it for me and you to get up and have some structure in the day and just like live that sort of purpose of trying to spread some joy and spread positivity and talk about things. And then we just loved that people joined us, and like you say, straight away it was a community of people, but it gave us something to get up for every morning in a way that maybe we were all thrown into lockdown and we would have felt lost otherwise. But we found
my calendar.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
So my Google Calendar was like color coded with literally an activity every half hour, an improving activity. I was doing choir, I was doing sourdough class, I was doing exercise, I was going to see my mum between this hour and this hour. I was reading a story. I still read stories on Facebook Live, and everything was like bah, 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 and you just looked at it and just like, oh.
I was like, what is going on? And meanwhile, I was like, felt like I was in a 24-hour call center with work, and it was just like literally lost in the back room with my office set up, and just lost, just trying to do what we were doing. And we were doing some amazing things as a team, as a college. But yeah, that was really intense. And then we got to Easter and we wanted a breather. But we didn't want a breather from what we'd started. We wanted that. We wanted the breather was, let's create the spaces online for people to come together. Let's explore. We have been taken to Twitter, but let's invite other people to the spaces and see if other people want to join us. We didn't know, did we? We didn't know. No, and we both are that type of person that's constantly thinking about the future, thinking about ideas, thinking about innovation, thinking about how things can be different. And I just remember saying to you, I just need a space to think about all this stuff. I need to and we just said, well, let's just create a space. Let's just open a space every morning at Easter, 9 till 10. Including Good Friday and Easter Monday and Easter Sunday.
Absolutely, we did it Easter Sunday, like time, like though it didn't have any meaning, did it? Because people were carrying on working and getting used to, well, we're supposed to be on a break, but what do? We can't go anywhere, and getting used to that sort of really strange, because there was a lot of emotion around. I remember doing club-a-size quite early on, like in my kitchen. I've still got 2 whacks out of the island here where I hit it with a glow stick. And I can remember we always did, you got the love at the end. And I can remember like tears streaming down my face, because all of the emotion every day it was really small, but it felt really big. I was like the IT crowd helping people get on Zoom all the time. And yeah, so when it came to Easter, we wanted to keep on going. And I got thinking environment practice that we'd practiced a bit between us. And it just seemed to be that could create a space for, like, we could get together and have a coffee, and that was okay, but all that slight awkwardness of who's going to speak next. And in some cases, the people who gathered around that sort of Easter stuff, we hadn't all met, not by a long shot. We just, like, some people were known to each other, but a lot of us had just met on Twitter, or we'd met in passing or something like that. So we started to use the thinking environment processes initially just to make it a little bit smoother and a little bit more easeful. And of course, if you'd asked me what would the thinking environment do online, I would not have seen its potential at all. And this very quickly became the ideas room, didn't it?
Yeah, it was so cool. And I think we said, right, okay, let's use the thinking environment. But then as we did the first one or two, we just saw this magic happen. We just saw, like you say, there was so much emotion, but there was so much ideas coming out. There's so much talk of change, so much talk of how we bring joy to education and everything else that everyone was dealing with, because we were all dealing with a lot. We didn't know. We were all dealing with uncertainty. But I think there was a real, that's special space, that those connections that were built were just, that shared experience at that moment in time was just phenomenal. And we talk about sort of how Joy FE, there's no boundaries, there's no sort of, there's not a specific group of people per se, but some of that stuff that happened really early days was just super special. And I suppose that's the stuff that I'll remember forever. It's, there's some of that stuff in there that is just, we've made lifelong friendships, and still there are people I haven't met in person who are part of that group. But then as it's grown, and as people come in or don't come in, and just come whenever they wanted to join in the conversations, whether it's the ideas room, whether it's Twitter, wherever that is, people just come and go and participate as and when they feel like they want to. And that's the part of the magic of it, isn't it?
It is. Whoever's there is always the right people. And even early on, when it was that group of people sort of really, almost huddling together, in that sort of back-to-back huddling together against all this uncertainty, trying to make sense of the world. But it was never always the same people there at the same time. It was always who could just make it. And that Easter, so people would drop in, drop out. It was really cool. And remember, both me and Heather Booth Martin were picking up our PhD work. And so after the ideas room, we kept it open for like a writing space. And at some point about how, we continuing that this Easter as well. So we were trying all sorts of different things. We looked at the 3 horizons, didn't we? We were looking at horizons for sort of, strategic planning, and we did little workshops on that. It was so exciting, and I don't think we've ever lost that joyfulness, because from the start, and this is really interesting, it was certainly always driven by values, but it was always critical, joyfully critical, not moany, not cynical. It's never been a whinge place. I mean, people have come into the space and rage sometimes, like including myself on very many occasions, but it's always been joyfully critical, and it's always been about, we said we wanted to do something different, not do the same things differently.
Yeah, and it's always been a space where we've challenged the norm, we've challenged what exists, we've challenged how things are done. But we're always willing to propose new ways of doing things, or we're always willing to say, we don't have the answers actually, but this is why this isn't working. And this is the sort of impact of some of this stuff that is happening. And it was Jen, wasn't it, that came up with the phrase of like no go backery, and and that became like real part of that sort of momentum as we moved out of Easter and all the things that we'd done there with the ideas room and the writing rooms. We moved out of Easter and we just carried on. Like, we knew we needed to get to summer, and we knew as we got to summer, people were starting to think about September, and we started to really focus around no go backery, and people were saying, well, what is going to happen and how is it going to happen? But we constantly just talked about and invited people to talk about or bring whatever their thinking was on, well, how do we make education better? How do we do it differently? How do we bring more joy to the everyday, not always the big things, but some of even the subtle things. And it became about relationships, didn't it? It became about people, and it became about humanness, and it became about empathy, and it became about just dismantling some of the stuff that really isn't working. And I think people have then built that momentum around just trying small things or big things, and there's just been some amazing things happening across the country because people have come into the space, talked about their ideas, and then found some sort of critical friendships and critical thinking around some of those ideas, and then they've gone off and done all sorts of amazing stuff.
And it is really changing things. The impact of all of this rippling out is absolutely huge. There was it was like an earthquake a year ago, and what came out of that earthquake? Initially, it was all digital tools, and then the massive fear factor around, oh, you can't use Zoom, and you can't use this, and you can't use all of that stuff. And people who gathered around Joy FE were sort of up for, the tech side of things. Yeah. That we learned so much from one another, didn't we? But even more than that, it's about people, as you say. It's about people, and really pushed organizations and others who were perhaps looking in and seeing what we were doing through social media, really pushed, but what about people? And I think that I saw that tide turning. So it went from the sort of digital, then it started to turn into, it's about people. How can we connect people? And the realization that actually some students were thriving, some not. And, there was and there still is, a massive issue of digital poverty, and we were calling that out as well. We were trying to engage other people in campaigning about that. But that reaching beyond the digital to finally see digital as a way of connecting people was massive. And then the go backery started. And that's where I had my little, moment of losing hope. It felt, I can remember crying on the phone to you and saying, we can't do this. It's just too big. It's just too much. And you saying, it's a lot, but you said to me, we can do hard things.
Yeah, we can't, because we can. And it did, and we did that. We both had moments where we would come together and say, like, this is massive. Like, we can't do it. Like, how do we do this? How do we influence this? How do we change that? How do we convince people? But what I do want to do is, just because I suppose it's part of the discussion, people started to say, what even is Joy FE? What even is it? And that's like a bit of the story of like what we did and how it came about. But like, what even is it? And I suppose the easiest way to people understand the way you say it's a hashtag. It's a hashtag and it's a movement. And I don't think I've found any other words for it. No. It is a movement. It's a
community.
Yeah, it's community, and it's an intention. Yeah, it's actually an intention. It's an intention to bring joy and light to education. That's exactly what it is. And
practice. It's an intention. And it's a practice, because we don't just talk about it, we do it. We're all doers.
Yeah.
Everyone who collects around Joy FE is a doer. People drift up sometimes, and sometimes they email us, don't they, Steph, because they don't want to do it publicly. And they'll say, you know, how can I get involved in the work? And you suggest all the ways, but they're not good enough, because what we're looking for is a platform. We're not a platform.
No.
We're a movement.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because we just have spaces that anybody's invited to. We could do more, but we've had to, haven't we, say what is manageable for us, because this is just something we do for fun.
This is our hobby.
This is you know, people always asking me questions, you know, is it a business? Is it this? Well, Joy FE is not a business. We created Joyful Education as a partnership, which is the business element. It's the commercial side of me and you together. That's our paired work. But Joy FE is the no boundaries, everybody welcome. No, you know, it's so inclusive, and we have certain spaces at the minute where one is the ideas room, one is the magazine. Even, you know, we have the magazine, and we had to build that a bit and figure out what that was for us, and then we eventually opened and invited people to write that. We have so many people wanted to write for us. It's just been phenomenal. And in the background, it's just a whole group of people creating a magazine every month and putting it out in the world. And that is if people don't want to turn up in a space online, they can write, or they can read, or they turn up on Twitter, and you can join us on Twitter. But ultimately, it's just a group of people with an intention, and an intention to then go out and do stuff. We're not people that will talk about it and not do it. I think if we're going to be joyfully critical, there's too many of those people. People are talking about change all the time on Twitter, and then maybe a bit of action, maybe not. And so when people are wondering where the change is here. The change has been happening for 12 months. The change has been the things that we have been doing. And we keep saying, and it's not a one day thing. It's us managing ourselves for the last 12 months. There is a book to write about what we've done and how we did it, and I don't even think we could quantify some of the impact.
We really couldn't. And deliberately, you know, absolutely deliberately, we have never tried to capture or quantify the outcomes of the ideas rooms, for example. Like, ask us for stories, and, you know, ask the people who are in the chat and who are listening in for stories. We've got 1 million stories. We haven't written those stories down. We don't put it on a spreadsheet, because everything else is like that.
Because I was sick to death of being asked to prove my impact, and I just used to do it. And the pair of us are very similar in that way. We won't write it down because someone wants us to write it down. We sometimes worry we might forget all the details, but I think as we go back in time and think about some of the things, and then the whole community of people contribute to that story, we'll remember things. We'll remember
things, and we don't. There's something else which is incredibly important as well, which is that right from the start, one of our values, you can't express it very gracefully, but Joy FE is anti-competitive. It's not just not competitive, it's anti-competitive. We won't have it. And when people compete, you see a bit like hustling on social media, we just like quietly talk to the hand, you know, because we're having it. Because there is room for all of us, there's room for all of our ideas, there's room for us to learn from each other. And if you look at some of the fabulous stuff that is going on, I'm looking at Bryony here. Bryony has brought a whole load of amazing writers and activists into the Joy FE space, writing for the magazine, coming to the ideas room. It is impossible to, when we look at the successes of all of those people at different colleges in Wales, it is impossible to spread out, you know, what's been inspired by Bryony's amazing scholarship and research work, by the way in which, you know, those colleges sort of operate their teams, by the Joy FE influence. In England, people who are part of the AP Connect project, sometimes, you know, I've been reading loads of reflective accounts at the end of year 3. When I say that, that sounds boring, but the creativity of them has just been immense. So I've been reading, I've been listening, I've been watching. And sometimes people don't know, they'll talk about Joy FE, AP Connect, FE Research, all interchangeably, because what we do is we take our place in the landscape, and we're not fighting for territory with other movements. Why would we even want to do that? Because it's going to take the critical mass of us all to bring about huge cultural change, not just in organizations, but like in, let's be right, in the country.
Yeah. You know, and that is interesting, isn't it? And we set out at the beginning saying, let's fiercely believe in abundance. We didn't want to engage in any sort of like, this is our space, this is what Joy FE is doing, and therefore let's be, you know, standoffish with anybody else. It was never about that. And we had that conversation, I specifically remember a conversation about abundance, because when we grappled with it a little bit, what we realized was, and we always knew it, I suppose, is there is so much stuff that needs to be influenced positively in this country or beyond in education. We too can't do it all.
No.
We never go, but we want to make our little dint in the world. We want to shine the light in the world, like that's our light to shine. Like we have that. And all these other communities and groups of people, and like you say, people just go between all the different things, because we might have slightly different things, agendas, events, talks, spaces that different people want to attend at different times or be around different people at different times. And like you say, and that's cool. Like, that's totally cool, because why wouldn't we want to keep just building the communities and that, because the power is in the collaboration. And also, I wrote something once in my journal, and I've never forgotten it, but it was, I shine my light so other people can see theirs. I don't know where that came from, but I also have this vision of like everybody shining there. The more we shine together, the brighter the light is. And analysis really sort of, I don't know, just means a lot to me. It's just about shining light. And the more we all take care of our own light and shine our light and each other's light and nurture that light together, the more impact and the more momentum we will get. And that's where I always want to be.
And we've had our ups and downs. Everyone involved in Joy FE, in any way, has had their ups and downs, frustrations, exhaustions. They've been sick. They've lost loved ones. The whole of life has carried on being itself and worse during a pandemic. Yeah. But Joy FE has never dipped its collective light throughout this whole time. No. It's always shone brightly because we're all these little moonbeams, aren't we? And so it doesn't matter if I'm not around for a little while because I need to just nurture my own feathers or just withdraw and be in a space. It doesn't matter if you're not around for a while because there's other things in life you need to be attending to. And I've never been in this space before. And theoretically, I suppose, I've always believed this could be possible for many, many years. And I've tried in different ways, maybe for the last 20 years, to be able to ignite a community that doesn't need me to lead it all the time. And it's always failed, because as soon as I've tried to it's just gone. I could not be in Joy FE tomorrow and Joy FE would still carry on. Yeah. And I absolutely know that. And I don't know whether it's about, I'm a South Yorkshire person. I think about Sheffield steel and I think about how it's forged in heat. And there's something about the way that Joy FE was forged in the sort of heat and emotion of that first lockdown a year ago, that just made it really strong as a movement, as a practice, as an intention, makes it really independent, I guess. I would never want to see a hierarchy. I would never want to see a management. I would never want to see funding for it. Don't want any strings or controls. But I could walk away. You could walk away. We both could walk away tomorrow, and Joy FE would still shine its light. And that's my life's work. My job here is done. I'm not. But I'm done. I could, and that's so liberating to know that I could.
Yeah, I know, and that is part of the beauty, where you don't we're not counting how many times people turn up and then that earns you like a status. Or there's been times like since the last couple of months in particular, just moved my whole life, just moved to a different county, there's been some new job, you name it, and a lot has happened, and there's been times that I haven't been able to, just don't have the bandwidth to and there's times in life where we don't want to connect. We just need to go inward for a little minute and have a minute, and then be able to just come back when we're ready. And so what even is Joy FE? It's a community of people that's not a gang, it's not a club, it's not a cult, it's not, people think all sorts of things, but ultimately there are no boundaries. There are no you don't have to apply to come join us. You don't pay money to join us. You just rock up, and if you want to be in a positive space and think and listen and maybe write for the magazine and just talk about how the world can be better and how we can do things better and how we can help each other, then it's the space that you want to be in, maybe. But there's no definition around the edges, or we have structures, don't we? We have like the things that happen, which is the ideas room, or we have why am I forgetting one? I feel like I forgot something.
There's the ideas room, there's the magazine.
Yeah. And on like Twitter, maybe Twitter's like that third. It is a third thing in my head. But yeah, we just invite people to the space, and I want to just remind everyone that we're just always there's no invites to be had. As in, we won't very often say we invite you. It's just come join us. And I just love that about what we do. And it is the other bit I love about it. It's whatever the collective, the individuals in the group, the people want it to be.
It's lovely. Absolutely, it's what people want it to be. And I noticed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No,
a few weeks ago, there was a little sort of phase of. And I'd got that Saturday job, which was certainly the most Saturday job I've had since Mexborough Library, I have to say. So I'd got that Saturday job, but what I was noticing was that on a Saturday morning, for 2 or 3 weeks, people were just rocking up and saying, "Oh, I'm quite interested in doing a little workshop on such and such," and that was still. And a few people would get together and learn to do a thing from one another. I just finished my PhD, and in my PhD, 400 people told me that they weren't really interested in teacher and student. They were really interested in people teaching each other, and that's absolutely been able to happen. And yeah, thank you, Susanna. I am like, you've got a proper job now, Stef. But I'm still nomading around the world, and I still need a reason to get up in the morning. So I'm broadcasting on Facebook Live, and I find I talk about all sorts of stuff. But it's always inspired by the community, by something that somebody said or tweeted or the previous day. But listen, there's something that we've got to talk about. I've seen Sarge on here tonight, and we have regular blokes come in now to the Ideas Room on a Wednesday, don't we? And joining in with various things. But we are pretty much 90% women who are drawn to Joy FE. What's that about? I think we quite apologetic about this, didn't we? Like, please don't think, that we're pink and fluffy. No unicorns are harmed. Stop. What's this about? Come on, guys. What is it that you think we do?
Yeah, and we went through a phase, didn't we, where we tried to work it out, and then we stopped working it out, and we just, like you say, the right people are the right people. But we have, I think the ideas room over time has just got a bigger mixture of people, and that's always great, because we get different, we always just want different voices, different thinking, don't we? And we generally, it is interesting. It has been really interesting. And we haven't worked it out, have we? But we just want to make sure people know that the doors are open. Like, anybody is welcome.
And we don't be in there knitting. If I'm usually I'm cross with something. You're honestly not there like doing crochet or anything like that. Not that men shouldn't knit and do crochet, but no, it is really interesting. Yeah, it's a different space. It's very different from a normal meeting space when we get together on Zoom, even if we're just getting together for a coffee.
Yeah, and it is I suppose something that we don't sort of, I don't know, we don't, some weeks we promote what we're doing, and other weeks we don't, but at the same time the invite's always there. And I think one of the things that's probably really important to say is, if you're wondering about what it is, or you're still not sure, just come and join us, like on a Wednesday evening, or Twitter, and find us on Twitter, and just see what we're doing and see what we're talking about. And then if people have got ideas, or read the magazine. The magazine's always probably a great place to start, because it's not you don't have to be there live. It's not like you don't have to come on Zoom. You don't have to really do anything other than be willing to have a read of what's there, and you'll get a flavour for what we're about by reading the magazine, for sure. And I suppose it's not very threatening, but I'm interested if people have any other ideas about what they want it to be, or what they think we could do in the future, and then we're always up for it. We're always up for the ideas.
No, totally. And if you're doing something, you want us to amplify it, and it's in the spirit of Joy FE, which is joyfully critical, then we're really, really happy to do that. We over Easter stretches over 3 weeks. We just did a little poll, so we know that some lucky people are finishing at the end of this week, and some of us going on finishing, just for Good Friday. So again, watch out on Twitter. There's going to be we're going to be sort of having a little program with some writing room spaces that Joe Fletcher Saxon is working up. The ideas rooms, of course, always 9 to 10. We might have Good Friday and Easter Sunday and Easter Monday off this year. Maybe. So that might be a really great time to join us when it's a little bit quieter. We've got we're on all the socials, so if you'll see us on Instagram as Joyful Education, but we post in Joy FE stuff there as well. You'll see us on Facebook. The lives are on the Joyful Education Facebook page, but we have a Joy FE group as well, and Twitter, of course, and we post slightly longer things on LinkedIn. You all who are here tonight, and many, many more people, post stuff and tag us in. So what we started out as very powerfully a hashtag. So if you go in any of those spaces and click on hashtag Joy FE, you will see all sorts of really interesting people. I'll tell you what I love, Steph. I love it when I see that a couple of people have got together and made a podcast, or done some training together, or or perhaps bump into each other at organizations, at events, and just immediately know that they're both Joy FE, and it's almost like a way in to get chatting. I'm looking forward to that working for physically as well.
No, I can't wait. And we did originally say, didn't we, that we would do something at the end of May as a Joy FE event, and we'll probably probably still do something, but online, probably. But I think at some point we'll figure out, we'll navigate the next couple of months, and then we'll figure out how to do a real in-person thing, because that's just going to be like amazing.
Joy FE Festival. Absolutely, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
We did have an idea. We were going to invite people to ask questions, but you're all part of it. So, you know, of yourselves. So presumably you'd have all felt bold. I can't imagine you have any questions to ask us tonight. They couldn't just ask us. But if there is anything you want to ask or throw in or suggest, then, you know, please do so, as we're coming to a bit of a close here. What about the future of Joy FE then? What should we've achieved so much of that original vision, and that will continue. Yeah. Do you have anything that you sort of see going forward, ways of, you know,
I'm like an ideas person, and what I do firmly believe in is like the right things happen at the right time. And I think as I sort of alluded to before, the bandwidth for me, my bandwidth has been pretty low, just navigating so much change and so many like really cool things. And I've just been settling into a new life, I suppose, in Cheshire. But what I know is that I can almost sense a bit of an evolution, the next part of Joy FE, but I don't have a real sense of what it is. What I do like is this. We started with the Twitter broadcast, and it kind of we took to Facebook at one point, and then and it sort of evolved. But this sort of chatting, we've joked, haven't we, about it might put people off, but we joked about the Loose Women format, where there's like 6 of us on a screen and talking and having like an hour's program. We could easily fill an hour. I mean, we're nearly there. But like with 6 of us, and have it themed and have it questions and topics. And I would absolutely love to do that. We won't be calling it Loose Women or Loose Joy FE or FE. We won't be calling it anything like that, because I think I am conscious that it needs to be try to build that bridge, because for me, if it's whether it's perceived or real, that people maybe don't feel like they can step into the space, I'm still interested to explore why, not like in a confrontational way, but I'm still interested to figure out if people need that little bridge in, and what that bridge might be. But I think having like an hour and just having like different people attend, whether like 4 to 6 people every week, an hour show where we live stream and we have topics, I just think would be amazing. We can't do Women of Joy because we don't want it to be just women, and DJ probably is not allowed anywhere near.
Oh, that's really fine thoughts. DJ on TV now, he ought to be on proper Loose Women. And if you don't know who DJ is, check out her Agony Aunt column in the magazine. I think she's everybody's favourite that they turn to. No, I do. I love that idea. I do love the broadcasting. I think the tech, we are learning about the tech, and this has been a really great way. And I think we could have had more of us on here tonight as well. So we sort of got a way here to be able to do that. I'm interested in some of the perhaps less tangible stuff. So I'm interested in how we are all doers and what comes first. Are we real doers drawn to Joy FE? Can we teach other people to be doers? I have a theory that for many years as staff in FE, we've been quite infantilized, and been more important to be compliant than to sort of try new things. But here we all are, we're so bold and brave and courageous. How do we help other people to be bold and brave and courageous? And for me, that is, it sort of evolves into the question of what is Joy FE leadership? It's Joy FE leadership, that courage, that, you know, that to go right back to this, my theoretical underpinnings of what joy is. Joy is the relation between people, it's the energy that sparks between people. And how can we funnel that to make it go more further into leadership? And of course, the Joy FE book. But Susanna's just made me laugh there. And the thing I really want to know is, how tall is everybody? Because I'm just guessing at that. And if anybody saw the final of RuPaul's Drag Race last week, when all the queens were stood, and some of them were like this tall and some of them were tiny, absolutely hilarious. So I want that to happen.
That is actually a very good point, because I don't know the physicalness of everyone, only a few of us. It's been just amazing to just have a minute, isn't it, just to reflect, just to think about some of the things, tell a story about how we started, where it came from, the types of things that we do, and maybe that will help people answer the question of what even is Joy FE. It is an energy, and I think, you know, you mentioned energy. We talk about energy just an awful lot, because everything is energy, and it's the energy of intention and relationships, and the energy that we bring to the world. And I think there is definitely something in exploring. What do I want to say? Like the commonalities, the shared energy between us. I think there has been a shared energy, and there is a shared energy when anybody comes into any one of those spaces. There's a shared energy and a shared intention. I use the phrase like to make a difference, but there's probably some research in there about unpicking the want to come into the space, the values base that people bring, even if they're not conscious of it, and digging into some of those things and the common links to our own individual purposes. I think there's something there that brings the magic.
I think so. And I think that, you know, that efficiency of the Wednesday night ideas room, so many people come in on a Wednesday evening absolutely knackered and go out buzzing. We say to each other, if we could bottle that, and I'd love to figure out what that is, because it's definitely in the energy there. But yeah, loads of ideas, and all these amazing people who I see in the chat, all part of Joy FE in different ways, all, you know, driving forward. And as we go on, some of us are going to come to the fore, some of us are going to take a rest. You know, it's such a fluid style of collective leadership. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful yellow wave.
It definitely is. We could probably just talk all night, so let's leave that. I just want to say thanks to you, Lou, as well. Always there with me in the space, and I really appreciate that. So
I'm right back at you. Loads and loads and loads and loads. You know, we did a good thing. Look at what we did. Everybody's done it with us, but we still sparked it. Look at what we did. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you in year 2 of Joy FE, whatever that may bring. May it bring us all love, joy, happiness, connection.
Yeah, we do it ourselves. Do it for ourselves. Have
Always.
a great rest of the evening.
Bye everyone. Bye Lou.